Hi, and welcome back to Use It or Lose It, where I help you try to strategize how to keep food out of the landfill and get every penny out of your food dollar. Well, I'm very excited because today I'm wearing a gift from my dear friend Maureen, a personalized apron. That's a big heart. So thanks, Maureen. So in case you're wondering who it is that's talking. Anyway, so I mentioned in a previous episode that another friend, a different friend, had gifted me a very large butternut squash. I'm still working my way through that, and so I kind of need to speed it up to make sure that it doesn't go all slimy waiting for me to get to it. I also got a great deal on cauliflower. They had a special where it was 2 for 1, and 2 heads was only $1.99, and usually it's about $3.99 for 1 head. So I grabbed the biggest ones I could get. One I completely riced, and so you may recall from a very early episode I talked about cauliflower rice. So I also riced some of the butternut squash. How do you rice butternut squash? You cut it into chunks and you throw it in the food processor or blender and just kind of grind it up until it's in smaller chunks. Or you can, use the grater feature. That's not quite the same. But anyway, so now I have my butternut squash, riced cauliflower, and I have my freezer's kind of full, so I'm trying to work my way through some stuff. So I have about a half of a turkey kielbasa link. I have some fresh onion, garlic, and tomato sauce, chicken broth, and kale. It comes in a giant bag, and that's tough to get through when you're one person and you don't like smoothies. So what does that all spell? We're going to be making a soup, because remember, one of the other things we talked about, how when in doubt, roast it out. The other thing, make a soup. So we're going to make this delicious soup that is mostly vegetables with a little bit of turkey kielbasa just to give it a little heartiness. It's 18 degrees today, so it's definitely a soup day. So we're going to get started by, as usual, first lighting the burner. And we always want to start with our aromatics, our onion and garlic. But because garlic cooks very quickly, we let the onions get going a bit before we add the garlic. Oops. Helps if you add olive oil. You just need enough to keep stuff from sticking. The onions will start to release a little bit of liquid, and it'll all come out fine. And if it does start to get too dry in there, then I can just start adding chicken broth a little early, just to keep it from burning. Oh, and now my olive oil is nice and fragrant. So I have about a half of a medium onion here, sliced in half moons. Kind of a rough chop. That's how I usually like it in soup. Not diced. That's a little weird. I'm also going to put in the kielbasa, which I quartered. Because I like a lot of small chunks throughout rather than a few slices. But that's just me. If you like slices, make slices. Because we want to brown that up a little bit while we're at it. Okay, so that's cooked down a bit. I may have gone a little overboard on the garlic. I would say about a tablespoon. If you're looking for exact measurements, this is not the show for you. I'll talk about approximately what I'm putting in, but that's for one person. If you're 4 people, it's a whole nother ballgame. Great thing about this is and I totally forgot, there's yet another ingredient. I'm also putting in chickpeas. So what more is there to like about this hearty soup? You've got beans, you've got meat, you've got vegetables. You don't want meat? You don't gotta have meat. You can make it strictly vegetarian. Use vegetable stock instead of chicken broth. You know, tailor it to your desires. It's gonna have an Italian flavor profile because that's kind of a classic, you know, butternut, kale, white beans. I'm using chickpeas just because I feel like it. Okay. So now this is a cup each of riced cauliflower and riced butternut. Okay, I know it looks like a lot more, but that's because it's in small chunks. And we're just gonna throw all that in. And also, because the squash and the cauliflower are in small pieces, they're going to cook faster. So you can kind of dump everything in at the same time. You don't have to like wait for the squash to cook before you can put in something more delicate. And now I'm just adding my broth to cover all of that, and maybe a little extra because we are going to be cooking down some kale in there. I'm going to throw that in, of course, because kale takes a little longer to wilt than, for example, spinach. And so that's probably maybe 3 cups of kale, which will turn into a half a cup, right? All right, so it looks like I need a little more broth. Let's just go ahead and dump in the whole carton. What's that? Yes, it says I need more broth. Okay. And then in addition, I'm going to add some jarred pasta sauce, whatever your preferred brand is. So it'll have, it's half a cup. So that'll give it a little bit of that tomato-y base. Again, just dumping it all together. Now, I think I've mentioned this before, so when you're adding Italian seasoning, and I just go ahead and buy the already blended rather than the individual herbs, it's just convenient. But you don't want to add it too soon because it can get bitter. So just keep that in mind. So right now, we're going to want to hit it with salt. We don't have to go too crazy on the salt because this is store-bought broth, but it is reduced sodium. And the tomato sauce also has some salt in it, but you always want to put a little bit in there. But I do want pepper, and probably what goes great with kale, crushed red pepper flakes. Those I will add now because that'll help soften them and take a little bit of the heat out. Because you don't want to go too crazy with that like I just did. But hey, that's how I roll. So now I'm going to go ahead and dump in my can of chickpeas that are rinsed and drained. Boom. And now I'm just going to let this simmer and come together. So this is what it looks like right now. So you can see the different colors. You can see the kale, the butternut, the cauliflower, etc., etc. So this is going to cook down a bit. It's going to be kind of stewy, which is fine. I can always add water or more broth as needed. And of course later I'm going to be adding my Italian seasoning. So I am going to step away, let that cook for a little while, and I will be back soon. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes. When you weren't looking, I did add the Italian seasoning. So now we're ready to give it a taste. The kale has cooked down so the flavors have had a chance to meld. We're going to give it a taste. It's got a nice kick to it from those crushed red peppers. Maybe a little too much, but oops. I bumped my elbow when I was putting the peppers in. But it's just the right amount of broth, the right amount of stuff. Everything is cooked down. It's burbling nicely. So, one of my followers suggested that I go through the big reveal and give it a taste. So, we're going to put it in the bowl, and you get to see me give it a nice big slurp, and you'll see the finished product. And we're going to finish this off by adding some Parmesan cheese on top, which will give it a nice creamy texture. Sorry, I forgot to put that out when I was putting out all the ingredients, but hey, that's just how I roll. Sprinkle on some parm, just to give it another layer of flavor. And so here it is. There we go. Yum. So here we have it, our butternut, cauliflower, kale, hearty soup for a chilly day. The Parmesan really helped to cool off those red peppers a bit. The kale is chewy, so it can stand to cook down a little bit more, but delicious. So there you have it. What you can do with some of those prepped vegetables, take advantage of a store special, take advantage of your friend who gifted you the gigantic, I'm not kidding, it was like this big, butternut squash. And we have a delicious soup that's going to make quite a few meals. Some of them will go in the freezer for a quick dinner at another time. So that's it for today. Thanks again, Maureen, for my personalized apron, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.